welcome to Under the First Floor Lo-Fi Podcast, shitty recordings of bands you should like. My name's David Settle, and on today's episode we have three-piece Philly band Drill. They're a noisy punk band consisting of bass, synth, and drums. I got to record their EP in the middle of last year onto this Tascam in the same manner of a live set, so it sounds pretty similar to this. But they came through and played a couple of new songs as well as some hits from the EP that came out in September. This is not a drill. And without further ado, here is one of those new songs called The Tower.
Little fly upon my wall, the saddest day, I can't recall, the highest tower of them all. How did you get here? How must you crawl? Little boy, inside my ear, when I hear it gets clear, and when you're leaving, a final tear, evaporating, disappear.
We're Drill, and I'm Gavin.
And I'm Sonam.
And I'm River.
What's the deal with your band? What's the history?
We've been a band for a year now, but we started playing shows a couple months ago.
Yeah, Sonam, when I first moved here, we were talking a lot about starting playing music together, and then one day it was basically just like, okay, I have this person I want you to meet, we're going to a practice space, like, on Wednesday. And then we were there. And then River and I met there and started playing music immediately.
And we all vibed real hard.
Yeah, but I think over the last 6 months we really got to know each other. I think our second night of practice, we saw this, like, creepy man at a 7-Eleven, like with this like younger woman, and then without talking or thinking about it, we like just followed them all silently.
We really wanted
to know what was going on.
Yeah, I forgot.
And that's just kind of what we're like. I think we write a song every time we hang out.
Literally.
And we don't mean to do it, but that's kind of become our mode of starting to jam or practice, is we start out with something new and then usually it becomes a song, and then we're like, oh fuck, the show starts in 20 minutes and we need to play our set. So that's kind of just how we do it.
Do y'all practice right before shows?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and we practice like once a week, pretty typically too.
I was like, y'all really tight for all practice.
I've been in other bands that were like worse at that, but we do a pretty good job about trying to get together consistently, even if we don't have shows going on. And right now we're like intentionally trying to write music, so we've been spending those like weekly practices when we don't have like shows coming up immediately, just devoting it to that, and that's been really nice.
Do y'all have any like new directions you're trying to go for, or do you just come in with a riff and then like go for it?
I feel like we've been really creepy lately.
Yeah.
It feels like our music reflects the fact that it gets dark at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
That makes sense.
It hasn't been like where we like sat down and like talked about how we wanted to change musically. I think just the fact that like the first set of songs that we wrote together were us doing the same thing, like just jamming together, and we didn't really like understand each other musically very well, and it it reflects that musically. Like, it's like very fast and sort of like straightforward and punchy, and then like now we have more time to be thinky with each other, and so like the songs reflect that. So
great connection. I hadn't thought about that.
I hadn't thought about the night thing, so good job to you too. Sonam, have you thought of anything we haven't thought of?
Anything?
For what? Wait, for what?
How our songs sound like then versus now.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, I think that all three of us are so highly sensitive to our surroundings and to each other. So I think like our initial nervousness builded into like a communal nervousness that we like swam inside of for a moment. But then slowly, like as we kept doing it for whatever reason, we were like, there is something there. And then we all got to know each other and love each other and spend holidays together and like bond in an internal way outside of like drill and stuff. And I think because we're also highly sensitive to our surroundings, we're now able to read each other so much more seamlessly than before.
Yeah. We can communicate better because of that too. Like, so writing becomes easier, whereas before it just like kind of like flew off the rail, not in like a negative way, but in sort of like a way where it's just like keeps moving. Like now, because we can communicate better with each other, we can like stop and discuss something in a way that we didn't do beforehand,
and then just pick it up. It's so fluid.
Yeah.
It's really special. So we're all ruled by Mercury, and so we're all great communicators, and we talk to each other with such like ease, and when it's not easy we talk around it. And then like going on tour, we connect with so many people, and we're all like, we don't like depend on each other, we're very independent, and we can just like meet a bunch of new friends and like socialize, and at the end of the night just like reconvene. It's so nice.
And we like regenerate energy with each other.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
And we riff so hard.
Yeah.
We like to riff.
These two are fucking insane in the car. Okay, I never thought I would be the person in the touring party who was like the calm, sleepy one. I've always been like unnecessarily annoying, but fucking once I was sleeping, like sound asleep, okay, and I just like wake up to these like gentle hums, and then it like increases in frequency, and River and Gavin are just like bellowing I won't even, like, nobody needs to know what they were singing, but what they were singing, like, just grew maniacally louder and louder and louder, and they were screaming it at the top of their lungs in the middle of, like, between Maryland and Washington.
Richmond.
Or
We're
Richmond.
pulling into Richmond.
We're pulling into Richmond, and I, like, am probably, like, my psyche is probably affected by that, like,
Still.
and I'm different now than I was that day. What day was that?
It was, we played Richmond on the 10th? Or the
River
9th?
can
No, we played it
remember-
on the 9th.
River can remember any date. Like, his recall of dates is incredible and almost poignant, and also sad, kind of, because
It is haunting.
remembering everything is sad, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you have a fucking sick life.
My voice literally changed, like, because I started transitioning last November. So if you listen to recordings from last November, I sound completely different. So it's just, like, evolved.
Us singing together developed a little later on. This is also, like, a big transitional band for me because I've always been, like, a drummer, or I was, like, just in one, or the two bands that I was in, I was a drummer, and I, like, knew that I always wanted to sing the songs that I write and stuff, but I never felt comfortable enough, like, singing or being in front of people. And then, honestly, like, Gavin and River really were, like, so supportive.
I think that also just, like, our first set of songs seemed more like something that Sonam brought to the table, and then that was, like, vocally like a Sonam driven song, and then another song would be something that River brought to the table, and that was a very much so like a River driven song. And I think now we do it more together, the writing process, and so like the vocals are gonna reflect that, and like there's a lot more dual vocals. And also I guess we just like realized after doing the first thing that it sounds cool, so we should do it as like often as possible.
It's a good way to stay, like, musically in conversation with one another. And it's nice to, like, communicate in that way. Especially the new songs, we're definitely, like, responding to each other and not really in congruence a lot, so...
I grew up most of my life in Atlanta and like the suburbs of Atlanta and then the city, and that's pretty much where I spent all my life until August of 2018 when I moved up here.
I'm Brooklyn, born and raised, and when I was like a teenager, I lived in India for a few years. Then I lived in Boston, and then now I'm here.
I'm from the Eastern Shore of Maryland, which is the absolute sticks, but it's about like an hour and a half from DC. So I moved to DC when I moved out, and
Gotcha.
yeah, then moved here.
So did y'all come from 3 different like DIY scenes, basically?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
True.
We come from such different places in music too. Like,
Okay.
Gavin used to be in a really sick indie band.
Which band?
It was my favorite band in high school.
Oh my gosh, hear this.
So when I was in high school, my high school boyfriend like would make me mix CDs all the time, and on every mix CD he would put a Places to Hide song on it. And I used to like literally once for an open mic, me and him played a Places to Hide song, like we covered a Places to Hide song. And then Gavin like knew him for a while, and then at band practice one day, he was like, I was like, what other bands were you in Atlanta? He was like, oh, this band Places to Hide. I was like, shut the fuck up, bitch. Like, I can't believe
Isn't that a gorgeous
so wild.
synchronicity?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's fate.
Yeah.
And I met Gavin from us playing a show together, and River and I were on a tour together, and both of these people, like I don't do this so often or anything, but both of them were people I went up to and I was like, we should hang out, or like I would like to do this with you, which is not something I normally find myself doing unless I feel particularly like intrigued or feel that there's some sort of like seamless and unspoken ability to understand each other. But both of them I went up to, and I don't know, that's really special to me.
Yeah.
And it was really important for me too, moving up here. I had like a handful of friends that I knew that I was going to spend time with, but they were all like old friends, basically, some from Atlanta, some from here, and Sonam was somebody that sort of like very quickly invited me to be a part of her world, and I think like without that it would have taken me a lot longer, and I'm very grateful to how quickly she let me in.
That's awesome.
I was in another band in DC, and it was my project for so long, and when I started to transition, like I couldn't sing the songs anymore. It was really, really depressing and sad. And then like this band became an outlet for me to like use my voice in a different way and like reconfigure how I can fit myself into the music scene. So it means like so much to me to be able to like reinvent myself in that way too.
What do you think about living in Philadelphia and playing the Philadelphia scene compared to like where you came from?
I love Philly, and I will go to bat with anybody who has anything to say, because Philly fucking rules. And I've never felt so welcomed and seen, and like, I don't know, I just really, really like Philly and the musicians in it.
Yeah, it's a special place. I've had a lot of fun sort of getting involved in punk music here, and it seems like a lot of stuff and characters are just like really off the rails, and it's like very exciting in that way. And I also loved Atlanta a lot, and I think the music scene in Atlanta is very special. It's so different in like what people are trying to execute in both scenes, and it's nice to like know that both are happening at the same time, and it's nice to sort of like be able to like bring some of what I learned to a new place, which I hadn't gotten to do yet, and it's like a new experiment.
Yeah, coming from DC, like it feels so much smaller because like it feels like there's less people there that like do the things that like I would do. So it felt like a tiny little family, and I really treasure my friends in DC. They pretty much have all since moved away. But like my friends at the time, because I lived in a show house there. But when I moved here, I lived in a show house, and that was a completely different scene than the one I'm a part of now. And I guess so it feels so much like it's weird to be like, oh, the Philadelphia scene, because there's so many different sects of it, you know? Like coming from like, mostly I did like indie rock, whatever, and then like going to shows like Cousin Danny's starting in March. Like I was like, oh my god, like these people like, I feel very at home here, and there's very little competitiveness, and it feels so like wholesome. So I feel like finding that part of the Philadelphia music scene was so redemptive. Like,
yeah, it's so joyful. Like, I come from a very broken music scene that's seriously like monopolized by a lot of like older white dudes, and I like remember being in a band, and it was like a big show in town or something, and the organizer of the show was just like, we'll have her band go first because she knocks out 2 categories. She's a POC and she's a woman. And you know, that's not even the worst thing I've encountered, like playing music in Boston, but like, you know, I used to run like a house venue called Grandma's House, and it was the shit. The shows there were really cool. And I remember being at like a show I booked, like passing a joint around that I'd rolled or something, and like the person next to me like lit it and then passed it around the circle, and I was like, oh, like, can I hit that? And I'll never forget, she was like, white people smoke first. And like having stuff like that, and that was her joke, that was her idea of a joke, but like hearing that stuff reinforced, because I'm in Massachusetts and it's like mostly white, and like just like the colonial history there, and also just the history of deep segregation in Boston, like that stuff would come out in a sardonic, joking way amongst my peers, and it was pretty hostile, honestly. Like, it was wild. Boston is really has a lot of growing up and learning to do in terms of like doing things not because they need to check off a box, but doing it because they understand the structural value of it and stuff. And Boston itself is such a transient city where like people there go for school, so there's like every 4 to 5 years there's a new filter for like what the scene is going to be like and stuff, and the people who stay like work really hard to keep it alive, but there's an equal amount of people who keep it alive for their needs, or like for, I don't know, the power structure there is really skewed. And like something that I've noticed here is that Philadelphia is so joyful, and it feels the way I felt when I was growing up in Brooklyn, where like the community aspect of living, like it feels so present here the way it did when I was a kid. And I think that's why I feel so at home here, honestly.
yeah, and different, but like so much gay shit here.
Oh my god, yeah.
I meet so many gay people every day, and people in DC are like, you know, most of them are young professionals, but even my friends, like, they, like, I had like 1 or 2 trans friends, and like now everyone I hang out with is trans. It's like very nice in the music scene to be met with people that like aren't like you in that way.
We found out Gavin's birth chart during this tour, which was big.
Did it make sense?
It did.
It was, yeah, it's gorgeous because Gavin, every time he sees a body of water, really goes, oh, water! And River and I were like, this bitch is a water rising.
Water
This
moon,
bitch
yeah.
has to be something. Oh, yeah, Virgo rising.
And
Can I say the
watching-
rest of your chart?
Yeah, you can spill the beans.
Pisces moon and Gemini sun, and we both are Gemini sun and Virgo
Yeah.
rising.
Do you think that affects the music you write?
Absolutely, in every way.
Thanks so much to Drill for coming down to the basement and playing some songs. If you'd like to listen to their EP and order a cassette, you can find it at drill215.bandcamp.com. You can also find them on Instagram at drill215. If you'd like to get in touch with me about the podcast, you can email at underthefirstfloor@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at UTFFpodcast and on Instagram at underthefirstfloor. For the last couple of songs, I'm going to leave you with some slightly ugly sounding, but in a good way, lo-fi punk songs. The first one being from the band Good Throb, a song called Psycho Disco. It's off of 2014's Fuck Off LP. They're a punk band from London. I don't think they're together anymore, but they put out 2 incredible EPs and this one full length. That's one of my favorite records. And the last song will be from a band called Gumming. It's a song called Lockjaw. It's off of their 2018 released Human Values on the great Not Normal Records. They're a really cool punk band from Richmond that plays some weird, noisy songs with some very interesting singing. Incredible band to see live. If you ever see them around your area, definitely go check them out. Hope you enjoy. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.